Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 1997 Nissan Stagea RS4V. So this was part of the first generation of the Stagea from 1996 to 2001, and it's mechanically similar to the R33 Skyline. So you can basically see this is a Skyline estate car, and yeah, I really am a big fan of estate cars, and this, really is hitting the highs of those what that kind of car can be like. And yeah, and that's with it due to it having a Skyline engine. It's got the identical all-wheel drive system from a Skyline, and even though it's not quite as powerful and obviously going to be heavier than the R33 Skyline, it's still a very ideal prospect, quite frankly, because you've got decent looks, you've got plenty of practicality as you'd expect from an estate car. So yeah, you got a decent looking interior on the inside, although these seats and door whatever you call them, panels, are very 90s. It's the kind of pattern work you really would not see on a modern car nowadays. But yeah, it's got pretty much everything here that you'd expect from a late 90s car. Probably got a cracking stereo like a lot of Japanese cars did in the 90s, and yeah, plenty of rear practicality as well. And as you will see as well, these doors are pillarless, which is also very, very nice. Something you wouldn't see in Europe until at least the 2000s, I believe, with the likes of Mercedes. And yeah, plenty of rear legroom, as you can see. Again though, you got that pattern work going on, which, to be honest, that's the only thing about this car that I'm not a fan of. But you do have a gigantic boot, as you can see. That's Volvo sized, quite frankly, and yeah, that makes this a very practical car, but it's also a very quick one as well for a car of this type, as it does have quite a sizable engine. It's got a 2.5 litre twin cam inline 6 engine with a turbocharger on top, which produces 232 horsepower and 202 pounds-feet of torque. Now granted, that is 15 horsepower and 15 pounds-feet of torque less than the R33 Skyline version of this engine, but that is still a pretty decent amount of power, quite frankly. And add on to that, you've got the all-wheel drive system, so the car's able to handle all that power. It's not going to understeer wildly or oversteer wildly anywhere. It's going to be sticking to the road like glue, unlike, say, a Volvo, the one I mean, the Volvo estate car from the same period as this, which also had a lot of power. I think it actually had more power than this, but that was only front wheel drive. So yeah, this is definitely well up there with fast estate cars from the period, as far as I'm concerned. Unfortunately though, it is saddled by a 4-speed automatic gearbox. I'm pretty sure you saw the gear lever when we were inside the car, which does mean that the power isn't used as well as it could be if it was a typical manual. You could give it a 5-speed manual, but they were very rare and only on certain versions of this car, so that is a bit of a shame. But this car does have a party piece, and that is what you can do when it comes to the bodywork. Now, you can just do your normal Forza, downforce, but we're going to swing the car around because this is a good surprise and a really fun one. So yeah, as per usual, when you do a body swap or body kit swap, the wheels do get wider out, as you can see, and some of the bodywork does change. As you can see, we lose some of the black accenting. We get a much bigger exhaust on the rear end, and yeah, that falls through to the side. But one thing we do get that I don't think we've ever had before is basically a front fascia swap, because you can turn it into a Nissan GTR with all things at the front, which is absolutely mad. And yeah, just a really, really rather fun little addition to this game. It means you can have, if you've ever dreamed of such a thing, a Nissan GTR estate. And obviously it's got the engine and the all-wheel drive system, so that is basically just the icing on the cake in terms of making this a GTR estate car. So yeah, it does make it, I think, a little bit worse in terms of handling. No, pretty much seems the same, to be honest. So yeah, that is pretty cool. And yeah, not sure if we can change other aspects of the bodywork. Should let me have a look. No, just the typical Forza wing. So yeah, but that is a really rather fun thing, quite frankly, and I'm sure we'll see plenty of those versions of this car online racing. But nonetheless, let's get out onto the open road and see what this car can do. Right, so here we are at the drag strip, so let's see what this car can do before we hit the speed camera, and then once again we'll get it around the track. So yeah, off the line, because it's got all-wheel drive and because it has that automatic gearbox, it's not the best off the line, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. But once it does start to work its way through the gears and through up the speed, it does, yeah, eventually start to pick up the pace. But yeah, I just can imagine this being so much better with a manual gearbox. But yeah, still 104 mile an hour there is not half bad. Again, for a car that is saddled with an automatic gearbox, which, yeah, it does have really rather long gear ratios, and yeah, it just does feel really rather sluggish, which the rest of the car doesn't come across as sluggish at all. It sounds really good, as you'd expect for a car with a Skyline engine from the 90s. And yeah, once you are, you know, getting it around corners, it's far from a sluggish car either. But yeah, it's just that gearbox, unfortunately, that really does ruin it, quite frankly, which is the case for a lot of 90s cars with an automatic gearbox, to be honest. You look at the likes of the Chevrolet Impala SS from that period. Again, a very powerful car, plenty of speed and acceleration, but if it had a manual it would have been a lot better. So yeah, we're mid C class, which is pretty decent, and yeah, those are the stats. So as you can see, the launch is absolutely woeful. Like I said, with that all-wheel drive system and the automatic gearbox, it's just, yeah, just doesn't get anywhere off the line. But the rest of the car is fairly solid, especially in terms of acceleration, handling and speed. Braking is a little bit on the low side, especially for a car that weighs as much as this. I mean, in fact, that's only 0.1 of a improvement over the AutoZam AZ1, and that car weighs, what, nearly 2,000 pounds less than this. So yeah, it's got about as good a braking as a car that weighs a lot less, which is obviously not helpful when you weigh so much. Not sure if we can compare it. Yeah, so this is the Volvo I was talking about, the 850R. So it's got slightly less, it's got a bit less actually in terms of braking and handling, but it does have a bit more in the way of acceleration, I believe. What were we? 3.4. No, actually, I remember this Volvo being more powerful than it actually is, but it does have more power and it does have more torque and it does have less in the way of weight. I think the only reason that doesn't have as good an acceleration is because it's front wheel drive, and putting 240 horsepower through the front wheels from the late 90s is not a good prospect, quite frankly. So yeah, but because it is front wheel drive and because I don't think it has anywhere near as bad a gearbox as this, it does have better launch off the line. So yeah, it would be interesting to see which one of these cars is the fastest around the track, but this for me is the one to go for, just because, well, it's got a Skyline engine and it's got all-wheel drive. But nonetheless, let's hear what this car sounds like and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, once again I have an accident on this game while reviewing a car, but that's purely because this handles far better than you'd expect a car of this weight and size to handle, but it's way more nimble than you'd expect, and therefore turning in comes a little bit sooner than you might anticipate. But still, sounds pretty great, as you'd expect from a car that has an engine from the Skyline. And yeah, the handling is really, really good. It's just a shame that that gearbox really does saddle the power and the energy that the car has, because yeah, with a manual gearbox this would be so much better and so much more enjoyable to drive. But even the automatic gearbox can't ruin it completely, especially when it comes to the handling. Once you do get to a series of corners, this is really rather enjoyable to drive, and yeah, just really just stick like glue to the road. Doesn't really have much in the way of body roll either, which again for a car of this weight and size is surprising. And acceleration is pretty good as well, even though it is saddled by that automatic gearbox. 0 to 60 is still dealt with in 8.220 seconds. 0 to 100 is dealt with in 20.319 seconds, and it goes to a top speed of 147 miles an hour, which is pretty solid considering it's only got 4 speeds to deal with. So yeah, overall a really enjoyable car. Easily one of my favourite estate cars on this game, and yeah, definitely a rival for that formidable and iconic 850R from Volvo, quite frankly. So yeah, but again, it would be interesting to see which of those two is quick around the track, given they are similar in terms of power. I know the Volvo has 8 horsepower more and weighs a few £100 less, but it's also got to deal with all of that power going through the front wheels, whereas this has the stability and the control of all-wheel drive. And yeah, that in essence should make it a more consistent vehicle to drive around the track. So yeah, like with the AutoZam AZ1, this is part of the JDM Jewels car pack, one of 4 cars, and yeah, it's a stonking car pack, quite frankly. All 4 cars have never been in a Forza game before, and yeah, I'm really pleased with this car and the AutoZam. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what the other 2 cars are like. But this and the AutoZam, again, like I said with the AutoZam, more than make up for the car pack's price or whatever else like that, even though it's not even that expensive. But yeah, the car pack is well worth it, even if you only like 1 or 2 of the cars, because at the end of the day, these are really unique and yeah, enjoyable to drive on this game. Nonetheless, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.